Starting. Boom.
Welcome to Thunder Nerds. I'm Brian Hinton.
And I'm Frederick Philip von Weiss, and you are consuming the Thunder Nerds, a conversation with the people behind the technology that love what they do.
And do tech good.
Pow! Boom! We're doing tech, y'all. Dadgum. Welcome to the show, everybody. Glad to see you back. If you like the show, please go to iTunes, give us a like and or review. Or
only good ones. Only 5 stars.
Ones, or go to thundernerds.io/review. Super appreciate it. Let's go ahead and welcome our guest on the show. We have a very super special guest, and I'm going to thank him ahead of time for joining us on such short notice. We have front-end developer lead and founder of the Front-End Design Conference, Dan Denney. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Thank you very much. And before we go anywhere, I have to say this is the best name for a podcast ever. Like, I'm an 80s kid, so
yeah.
Thundercats, like all the good stuff. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yes. So. And we're making everyone that is on the show too. I'm talking to Frederick. You are should all be honorary Thunder Nerds.
Yes. All right. I'm an honorary Thunder Nerd. I'll take that.
Dan, you heard it here from Dan Denney, man. Dadgum.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how you doing, Dan? What's going on today? How you been?
I've been really good. It's a pretty good day here in Brandon, Florida. Work from home. Went out and got some tacos, and now on a podcast.
Yeah, you're actually not too far away from us. Brian's in St. Pete, and I'm in Sarasota.
Oh, okay, cool. So, man,
makes a triangle.
Yeah. The weird triangle, because like the whole St. Pete versus Tampa across the bridge, but like Sarasota.
There's no weird. St. Pete, number one. I mean, I don't understand.
I do love St. Pete. We live in Brandon now for my daughter, but like I love St. Pete. I wish I could live back in downtown.
Yeah, it's very much a weird place. It's kind of like a big city, but with, I mean, I know it's kind of a weird thing, but it's like a small town feel. And like if you're near downtown, it doesn't seem like a big city, but you have everything like a lot of big cities have, good food, good, museums and art, and, it's amazing. I could talk about St. Pete for this whole show, so let's get started.
Yeah, Brian Hart, St. Pete.
Yes.
I love St. Pete too. I played a lot of shows there in my early days with the band, and I think we got a really good start there. But yeah, great. Yeah, I was in a rap screamo band back in the day. I did that probably most of my life, doing singing and rapping. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff.
This has probably been in previous shows, but are we going to get a link to anything in the show notes for that?
Sure, yeah, I could put a link in the show notes.
Yes.
You know what? I got a reunion show that I did in 2011. I'll put a link to the show notes.
I want to see this.
People could see me scream my head off and do some rapping.
I love this. I want to see it.
I think we need a live rap, actually.
A live rap? Oh, man, you don't want that. I don't even know what I'd rap about. Honestly, I don't want to offend anybody. There's a lot of people out there that really care about turtles, and I got some weird stuff.
Oh, jeez. No comment.
Just kidding. I just said that for the show of it. Anyway, so...
Dad joke. Okay.
Dad jokes are good. Danny, what do you do?
I am a front-end developer, technically. You could say I'm a front-end developer. I currently work for DataCamp, and this is my first time actually leading a team, too. So I have to put the official, lead front-end engineer at DataCamp. So it's like a team of 3, and then one awesome contractor at DataCamp.
Senior lead director?
Yes. And the senior lead director.
What does that mean, though? What is your day-to-day as a lead? How do you lead?
Sure. So basically, the reason I was hired was in order to kick off a design system for DataCamp, which is a really popular buzzword these days. But we are really trying to find a way to deliver consistent styles across 6 different web properties. And so that was my primary thing, but then also they knew we were going to need a team for that. So part of my week is doing one-on-ones, talking with the other team members, being how are things going, talking about career development, personal development, those kind of things. answering to what's going on as far as the group. Yep, shoot.
I raised my hand for the audio listeners.
Brian?
Before we move too far into what you do, what the heck is DataCamp?
Oh, sweet. Yeah. So it's online training for data science. So basically, anybody interested in any realm of data science, from learning how to decipher or parse a little bit of data within your company. So this could be someone that works in Excel on a daily basis, but wants to start to make more sense of their numbers, or someone that wants to really do a deep dive into machine learning or data visualization or anything like that. They would be able to start here on a small level on their own personal time, take some online courses, get brushed up on things, and then go forward from there.
Nice. It looks like you have some, I believe those are people or companies are involved, like LinkedIn, Samsung.
Yeah.
Some of the companies that you maybe use your service, or like that's very cool.
Yep.
Where did you get your interest in doing that? Does that kind of come from your old days of where you thought you might go into the SEO realm?
Yeah. Oh, you did some research.
Possibly.
So
we usually call it stalking.
Yeah.
We got some Polaroids of your house too. We'll show you later.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Yeah. The data thing's always been a weird thing. Like ever since I was a kid, like I've always had like weird interest in numbers and data and all that kind of stuff. So SEO was something that I was looking into when I was younger, trying to change careers a little bit. But what really drew me to DataCamp was the online education bit, because I did 5 years at code school, and that sounded like I was in prison. I had a wonderful experience.
I did.
Working.
I suffered 5 years.
Preface with something that I did.
Yeah. I'm out on parole now, but no. But like I had a fantastic, like wonderful time growing in a startup that did online education for web development. And then I left that, and then was on a little bit of like a hiatus. And this other opportunity came up at DataCamp, which was online education, but in the data world, which so to me was kind of what I was doing a little bit, but I wasn't teaching other people how to do the same thing I was doing. They're teaching other people how to do data science, and we're just working on the web bits of that, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I see the correlation there.
Yeah, and it looks like the company is actually spread out too. It looks like Belgium, New York. Where else are we? Is it a remote? Are you guys all remote, or is everyone on your team with you locally?
Definitely mixed. So they primarily work out of offices. Mm-hmm. So like sales and marketing, and like the primary headquarters is New York City.
Okay.
The engineering headquarters is in a suburb of Brussels in Belgium. And so the bulk of the engineers work out of there. But there are remote throughout Europe. And then I'm one of 2 people in Florida.
That's cool. Do you get to travel to the other branches?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yes. I love Belgium. I'm a beer drinker, and Belgian beers are some of my favorites. And
beer's kind of good. I heard about that.
It's good stuff.
And it's actually very pretty there from what I've seen. I haven't gotten the chance to visit myself, but it looks like some beautiful architecture and just, in general, very nice.
I was listening to an episode of, and we talked about this earlier. I forget the name of the show, but you were talking about how after code school that you took a little bit of a break and you were looking for something to really spark your passions, and you only do something that you find that really interests you and you're very passionate about, and you could really sink your teeth into. So I wanted to know, how did you come to where you're at now? Like, is there any kind of story there?
Sure. So I literally left code school without a plan. I was just at a point where I was like, I was technically leaving Pluralsight because we had been acquired by Pluralsight. We were working for a long time. I was now a Pluralsight employee working on Pluralsight projects. But yeah, so I left there without a plan, and just kind of did a little time learning Preact and hanging out, like doing some normal stuff. And then I was very fortunate in that Nicole from DataCamp actually reached out to me, and I checked out the company. I was like, wow, this is online training, which is something I'm very familiar with. They use very close to our same stack all across the board. And then I love data science. And so I was like, this is a win. So, and I was going to get to go to Belgium. So.
Get that beer, son.
Yeah, so all those passions, the beers are very strong passion.
That's awesome. That's so cool that you were able to align with them. And now you're in something that really sparks your interest and your passion to develop.
Yeah. So I don't know, like, the front-end development world has changed a lot over the past 5 years. And
oh, yes. Yes, it has.
I was looking at in that podcast that you're talking about, I was talking with Chris, and we were talking about how like it's like JavaScript's like eating the world a little bit and all this stuff. And I was thinking I'm going to have to become a JavaScript developer for my next job to like be to move forward. But one of the things that's really excited me about this is they wanted somebody that still really loved HTML and CSS. I enjoy React. I enjoy Preact. I like learning these things. Right now we're working at Vue a lot and I really love it. But the thing that really gets me excited is taking something out of like a Sketch or whatever program you want to use and then bringing that into the browser. That's like that's the thing that I love. That's my day.
Yeah, you know, I'll append to that point. I as well, and I think that's kind of a diluted art, if you will, that a lot of times we'll use the term front-end developer, where it used to be kind of more of what you described, and now it's becoming somebody that's more of a, you know, also the, you know, if you're going with the Jamstack or if you're going with, you know, the hardcore JS. Yeah, well, I mean, a unicorn nowadays is now somebody that also does copywriting, like now that old
UX,
the old unicorn thing is now just the standard. Like that's what it should be.
Yeah.
But
it's more like a herd of unicorns now, or whatever that might be called, because you're doing so much. It's not.
No, I've heard of unicorns before, but no, it's. It gets back to my point. It's a lost art, I think. You know, people do care about it. Obviously, it's huge. It's a very important thing. There is still a voluminous amount of people that do it, but I think it gets, again, diluted because we still focus on trying to, as Brian was trying to make a point, but not so much, but getting that person to do a little bit of everything. Like also they need to be like the super JavaScript guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, WebAssembly is the future, Dan. It's not Java.
I've seen that.
Yeah, and everything, by the way, for our listeners, not everyone's familiar with everything. Preact.js that he mentioned and Vue.js. We'll have links to those. They're kind of React alternatives, and I assume some of or most of our listeners have heard of React. But we'll have links to all of that in our show notes so you can explore.
And don't forget XHTML 2.0. That's coming out pretty soon, too. I saw that on the W3C. Oh, wait a minute. Right.
Yeah. So we kind of glazed over the code school aspect of it, but you were involved with that. And I believe, were you a founder at Code School, or were you? When did you join them?
I think I was employee, like, man, two numbers are sticking in my head. It's either
2.5.
I was either 17 or 23. I can't remember.
And how many when they were purchased? Like, what point did you leave?
Somewhere in there, like 48 to 50. Like,
oh wow!
Pretty much like. But I stayed a while after we purchased them. We stayed right around that like 45 to 50 range for a couple of years.
What was that like? I mean, I know maybe it's a touchy subject for you, and what was it like it was basically a startup, close knit family. I mean, that's how I feel when you're doing something like that. It's almost like a family, and suddenly there's a merger, Pluralsight, and Pluralsight at the time, were they? I'm trying to remember, is that the company that Microsoft actually owns them now, or did they own it at the time?
Not yet. No.
I'm trying to remember if they bought them or not.
No, they bought. So Microsoft bought LinkedIn.
Lynda?
Who bought Lynda? Yeah. So LinkedIn bought. Yeah.
There we go.
LinkedIn bought Lynda, and then Microsoft bought LinkedIn. So Microsoft technically owns LinkedIn. And
Microsoft owns Lynda.
Yes.
That's very that's a confusing. Confusing. Okay, but yeah, Pluralsight bought Code School, and what was the transition like for you? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people who are involved in startups that suddenly a company's going to buy them. They'd love to kind of hear like what it was like for you.
Yeah. So I was actually very, very pro being acquired. Pluralsight was a really cool company. They seemed really aligned with a lot of the guidelines behind Code School as a company.
Yeah.
And they had a very large library, and we had a lot of plans to like make just Code School be the interactive arm of Pluralsight. And it was kind of exciting, and it seemed like it was going to go in like a really, really good direction. I was one of many people that were excited. It didn't quite go as smoothly as we hoped it would. We just spent a lot of time. We spent about 2 years kind of just like treading water a little bit and not really moving forward. And then once it finally was that we were integrating, it wasn't in the way that a lot of us hoped that we would be integrating. And so like, and one of the things that was a big deal for me, and this was more of just an individual thing. There's plenty of people that came from Code School, so really, really happy working in Pluralsight and everything.
Yeah.
They don't have front-end developers. They have full-stack developers. So I was now a software engineer.
Okay.
I was really needing to start learning how to hook up data and then like work on some database schemas and like stuff like that. That was just like, I could learn it if I had to, but it wasn't thrilling for me. And I wasn't excited anymore. It wasn't like that thing where I was like excited to go into work today and be like, yes, I'm gonna like rack my brain over a database schema today. It's just not my thing. Like I don't
can't wait to go through that SQL.
I spent like a week like reorganizing our React file, like switching it from like it was like high order components. So we'll have to throw that in the show notes to show the comparison. But like it was like a higher order component structure to like a feature organization structure, which are like the two like great debates of how to organize React apps and stuff like that. So it slowed down, it shifted. It wasn't as exciting anymore. So I just changed out.
That's cool. So yeah, I really want to talk to you about, because this makes me think about it, and it's very apropos to what we're going to discuss, is the front end design conference. Yeah. Now, one of your biggest passions, I would say, probably in your career that has really touched a lot of people. And you started this in what year?
2009.
2009, and it's going to be the what anniversary?
Well, it's the 10th.
The 10th anniversary.
Yeah, for sure.
So what is the 10? Is 10 silver? I don't remember that stuff.
No, I think 25 is silver. 10 is like
paper.
It should be paper for that. Yeah. That's so cool, man. Just to think about like 10 years. I want to kind of go through the path of how this developed and why you developed it.
Sure,
do you mind just kind of starting on, what made you think about doing this?
Yeah. So it's a funny thing. Like my wife and I were going to get married. And so you guys live in Florida. For anybody that's not familiar, we have an area down at the bottom of Florida called the Keys. And we wanted to get married in Key West. Yes. The Concrete Public. So we wanted to get married in Key West. We wanted to have a big thing. But we didn't want to go into debt. So we started we each got second jobs, and we worked for almost 2 years, like 2 jobs, like to try and get this. That was where I applied for an SEO position. I got hired as a web designer. And all of a sudden I found this community, and I was like, this is amazing. I was working in gambling. I was working in poker, and it's a very negative type industry. And I found this industry where people are like, this is way back. This is 2008. So it was like Boag World was a podcast that was going on. And
it goes on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, he's still doing it. Yeah. But I'm like, this is like the early thing. So it was like Boag World, Smashing Mag, and CSS Tricks were like the top 3 like things that were going on. And this is when Smashing Mag was still doing list posts, which I know they try not to remember that those were a day. But yeah. So it was, I was into that. And then I decided I was going to go to a conference, and I went to Future Web Design. And I paid my own way. I just asked for a couple of days off from the shop that I was working at.
That had to be expensive.
Yeah, it was. I think it was like $400 back then or something like that.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, okay. But I wanted to go to New York anyway. My wife was actually like, she had a place that we were able to stay up there and everything, so we were good. So it wasn't that bad. But yeah, so I went there, and then I was just starstruck. I was just not so much in like the web celebrity thing, but as much as like on the stage, people are just going up there and they're like sharing all of their knowledge, everything that they can. And then they like get off the stage and they're like standing by the stage, like talking to people and just sharing everything they can. And I was just like, I love this. I need this in my life. Like, this is the greatest thing ever. And we came home and we got married, and then we had nothing to do but like live happily ever after. And I'm looking around, and meanwhile, we're like, I want to go to another one of these conferences, and there aren't any. So I was like, my wife had planned out the last part of our wedding and did all that stuff. So she had the event planning part that she was interested in. I had the web part. And so we're like, let's do this. And so that became front end.
That's amazing. And your wife now is an event planner, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, she's part-time. So she actually really had it as a business for a while. But now she's a flight attendant with Delta.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that that changed a lot. That actually
Miles.
Yes, that'll come to the end of the story, like how we like shifted away from it a little bit. But yeah, so that but that's what she's doing now. But for years, like it was her running the events and me being the face of the events.
Okay, so you went to an event, you enjoyed the event, you fell in love with the industry, which it's still a very authentic and giving industry. People will push to get out of the way or in the way rather to share their information with you, because everybody is just has this thirst for knowledge, and yet also this ability to share. It's pretty inspiring, and I know what you mean. But so at this point, you want to do it. You went to a conference, you got the inspiration. You and your wife said, "Let's start it." So what happened from there?
All right, so I'll give you a secret because I know you guys like secrets.
I know a good secret. Marry an event planner, and you could start your own conference.
Yes.
Good secret. Secrets out.
So you like little secrets, little tidbits of like future talks or little
exclusive.
Exclusive. So I looked it up this week. I found the tweet. So you guys were talking to Chris Coyer a couple of shows ago.
We were.
And so I wanted to start this conference, and obviously at that time I had my people I was learning from. This was like Paul Bowen, this was Chris Coyer, Nikki Brown, a handful of other people. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm learning from all these people and I want to throw a conference. So I've got my list of people. Yeah. And then Chris shares this tweet, and he had gone and talked to a high school. He was living in like out the suburbs of Chicago or something like that at that time. And he like went and talked to a high school, and I'm like, whoa, I'm thinking about this conference idea. He just shared that he like went and talked to a high school. Do you think he would do it? Do you think he would like he would come to a conference? So I sent like this like weird, I don't mean this in an awkward way, but it's like that, like, well, if I did this, would you want to do this? So I was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this conference, and if I did it, would you want to speak? Like, would you be willing to do that? And he was like, well, yeah, let's do it. And that was it. That was it. Like, we were doing the conference at that point. Chris Coyer said yes, he's going to do it.
Did you like do a little dance?
Oh, I'm sure I did.
Embarrassing scream.
Yeah, you did that Balky Bark Takimus happy dance.
Yes. And by the way, a 10-year mark for all the listeners who are just waiting for me to tell what it is. It's tin or aluminum is the gift, by the way. So I look forward to the aluminum cards that you're giving.
Yes, aluminum badges
for everybody that comes to the conference. That's awesome, Brian.
Yeah. Well, that's so. After Chris Coyer got on board, what was kind of who like fall into place next? I'm kind of curious about that.
Sorry to interrupt, Brian. I just want to say that was Chris Coyer's first conference.
Yeah.
Great.
Other than the high school.
Right. Yeah. The high school technically beat us to it.
Yeah. That's a conference. That's a high school.
I don't know what you would call that, a workshop or something.
Yeah.
Workshop. Go ahead, Brian.
But what kind of happened next? Did it all just fall into place?
It was really a confidence booster. Like him answering yes right away, like just got me sending. And this is like so far back that everything was just handled in DMs and Twitter. I DM'd Chris Coyer because like back in like 2008, like they were still like that phase where we're like sharing like the 100 people to follow in web development, like on Twitter, like so where everybody's like following everybody, and you could just DM and all that kind of stuff. So I just started DMing the other people. So it was like Jonathan Longnecker, Fabio Sasso, Kevin Hale. I think I had to actually email Kevin Hale because he wasn't so big in Twitter, but he was part of Wufoo, which was a Tampa company, which was a really big thing. They were in Tampa at that moment.
And that's amazing too. Sorry to interject to you, Dan, but it's amazing too that you got the guy from Wufoo, and now you have Chris, and they made that connection, and Chris started working for Wufoo.
Yeah, he was a big fan of them and stuff, and so like they got to actually meet at the conference, which was really cool. And then that you guys talked about that in your show, but like ended up in Tampa and everything was really cool.
That was the show with Chris Coyer for our listeners.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Of course, we'll have that link.
I'm not good at the reference.
all good.
Brian's excellent at it.
So I kind of want to switch things up a little bit and start. We're kind of going more for a topic-based approach this episode as well, along with talking about all the amazing things at Front End Conf. Which before we completely let that go, I kind of want to also say, hey, we're giving away a free ticket. You can, if you retweet us on Twitter, you'll be entered to win the free ticket. And we're going to be there, so you'll get to talk to us, meet us. We're going to be live podcasting there. And so
tweet us. Tell us you want the ticket.
Yeah, just tell us you want the ticket. Be like, give it to me, please. And we're going to be announcing it. When is it? April 8th, is it?
Yeah, April 8th, live on the show. We're going to do a randomizer, and we will pick a winner. So stay tuned and enter. Okay, now that wonderfulness is aside, and I'm super excited about doing that. Like, I love doing these conferences, so it's gonna be awesome. Are we gonna be in like a little closet in the basement, by the way, or? No, so I secured a closet in Hoboken, New Jersey, just for this unveiling. Yeah. No, Front End Conf. Front End Conf. We're gonna be in a skyscraper.
Oh yes, a bank building maybe. But no, I believe probably downstairs at the Palladium. Yeah. And the Palladium's awesome. Yeah, more top. If any of our listeners haven't been there, Palladium's awesome. It looks like some like ancient Greek temple thing. It's really cool. Brian, I'm sorry. Before you go into the topic, I really wanted to ask Danny what was some of his favorite moments and speakers at Front End Design Conference. Go for it. Oh man. So I'll share my least favorite moment because that's easier. Okay. Doing the introduction in 2009, like we did all this work to get the conference together. We've got like 7 speakers, one guy from like Brazil I'm about to introduce, right? Him and I had already gone to like the mall and done like surfing in the window, like the indoor like surfing and stuff. He did it. I fell all over the place, but yeah. So I go to get up on stage and I went to absolute pieces. I could not talk. I was just like, thank you for coming, Fabio Sasso, and like ran off the stage. Like it was. So that's awesome. Probably the most distinctive moment. I hope that's recorded. Is it recorded? Because that would be great to watch back and like just laugh at yourself, be like, I can't believe I did that, and then go on stage this year in like a tux and be like, well, it's definitely burned into Dan's memory. Permanently, yeah. So I try to avoid going to pieces. Aside from that, what got you that way? Were you just upset about something? I'd never done it. No, I'd never done it. I had never spoken in front of a crowd like that before. Definitely speaking in front of people is could be intimidating. 92 people. I remember that. Like this other thing that's burned into my memory. How many tickets you fell in your first conference? Yeah, I get that. Brian, I'll save my other questions for Dan for the rapid fire, but go ahead. Got it. So our topic for today is kind of it's a very broad topic. I kind of want to focus on one aspect of it, but it's emotion is the topic. But I kind of want to focus. I have those. Yes, Frederick has it. He cries often. Is 10 hours a day. The aspect of it I want to focus on is actually depression, and especially depression in the design industry, and the kind of both stigma, openness, and causes of it. And one thing that hit me today when that kind of made me swing this way is there was a
I'll have to find the link and we'll reference it in the show notes. But there is a kind of quiz / survey, like disguised as a quiz, that was released today about, are you a good designer, is what it was called. I think it was called, it was from a company called Euro or something. But to me, it was very, let's just say that I didn't like what they did. And they basically asked, hey, they asked questions that are completely unrelated to design. They asked, if one example was something like, who is the award, you know, that awards that they give out. Who's the winner of this year or something? And then they didn't ask anything that a designer really should know, like color theory, you know, rule of thirds, anything that is really important, like about user experience. They asked all these questions about who achieved X, who achieved Y, how, you know, who makes the most money, and things like that, which, you know, I found was very kind of offensive in a way. Like, that makes me a designer if I know who won an award last year.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and it went me down the path of thinking like, it's things like this that cause people to have things like imposter syndrome and to get depressed. I mean, I know people who are excellent designers I've talked to like privately, and they feel that way. And I look at their website and I'm like, oh my God, man, you are awesome. I look up to you. And they feel that they actually lose jobs because they feel depressed and unable to work and uncreative. And I think it's a good topic to talk about. And I'd like to hear either one of your thoughts on anything that I've said. I know it's kind of a long rambling.
Sure, I'll go first. I'll let Dan think a little bit. I worked with a guy probably maybe 7 years ago, something like that, that was really depressed about how he didn't go to a design school. And he had, I don't know, kind of like a phobia about it, where he always talked about how, and the reason I know, because I worked with this guy and he brought it up like all the time. Like, he would talk about his work and then he'd say, you know, I didn't go to the design school, but blah, 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 blah. And I didn't know if like he, you know, was pointing at my Ringling because I did go to art college or whatever. But like he just brought it up to everybody though. And it was like a weird kind of, I don't know, thing that he would bring up, but his work was excellent. So I didn't understand why he had this fear. But, you know, we all have those kind of things that we hold on to either from childhood or in our formative years, if you will, that kind of can hold us back from being our true selves.
Yeah. So I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with the worry about the quiz that was shared earlier today. So this will be a little topical because actually I've been through this stuff a little bit, like in our industry too. And so I would think like, for one thing, I would still say my opinion is we're still pioneering like what we're doing here. And so like a lot of us, like, it's a common joke you'll see on Twitter. Like, I try to explain to my parents what I do. And it's like, and like people don't understand that. And I know you're not supposed to even joke about parents not understanding it, but that's a whole other thing that we're going into.
Be sensitive, man.
but like a lot of people say that, like, I try to explain what I do and people don't understand it. So we're comparing ourselves to like these normal jobs, and like we have really, really good jobs. Like, we're hanging out right now on talking into microphones. This is part of our industry. It's a really good thing, but there is a lot of pressure to it too. And so it is really, you start to compare yourself to all the things, the people that are able to do things in your space. Like you said, like you saw that designer, you're like, man, your work's fantastic. You start comparing yourself to that, and like whether or not you can do that, whether or not you can do things that are in certain blog posts. And then now, like over the past, like I would say 6 years or so, there's also this social component, and that's what they were hitting on today. Like, it's not just that you have to be like on top of every new like thing that needs to come out for like building websites and being on point with the latest and like UX principles and design patterns and stuff like that. You also like have to be in the social part of it, and to make sure you're being, empathetic in the right ways, and then like and also knowledgeable of the space and all that kind of stuff. And so it becomes really hard. And I struggled with it in the conference bit for a year, because it gets for a few years, because it gets really rough. We were a conference, I think we took pride in being collecting speakers from a lot of different backgrounds and a lot of different spaces. But there was still the hesitancy every single time you put out a lineup. Are we about to get thrashed? Like, have we hit the right number of people to make everyone happy and not
the demographics.
And that really,
and it's that's a kind of a sad thing. I see that often occurring, and I know from a lot of the people that are in the industry that organize the events, because we've spoken to quite a few of them. I know you guys all try, like most seem to really try really hard to make sure that everyone's addressed, and attacking is never. I feel like attacking is never the solution. Like, reach out, and it's the same with with people who you see that are that do say, like Frederick, your friend, that was like, hey, I feel that he felt like an imposter. He felt like he didn't have the qualifications,
and his work was amazing.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing is you saying that, or me telling my friend, "Hey, you're amazing." That doesn't really help. It doesn't really. Unfortunately, people don't hear that. And I'm myself, I don't hear that. I mean, I'm on the show. This is an awesome show. I'm involved in this, but I feel that way all the time. I feel, because my job. I don't talk a lot about my job on the show. My job is very enterprise corporate. It's not about form. It's about function. It's about an admin interface that is able to provision people, or is able to, perform a task in a very clear and understandable way. It's very UX focused, not so much about when I click this, it spins around and it comes front and center, then dissolves into fire. It's not very, it's not exciting. And I see that, like, on Dribbble, which that's a whole another thing. I say on Dribbble myself, I see all these like fancy things, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. I get, and
do you mind if I address that for a second?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think too, you got to remember that design is not, and I'm not specifically saying you need to remember, Brian, but I think we all need to remember that design is not about the way something looks. It's not about being a visual designer. It's about being a strategic designer. And I think that's one of the qualities that's hard to the quantitative value of that is hard to define, in oneself and anyone else's work, what might go into that. And being able to see the results might not show you exactly the work that went into something.
Right.
Yeah,
definitely. That actually goes on topic as well, though, because, like, yes, you're absolutely right. We're talking about design, and form and function are like the top things at that point. But then, like, if we talk about emotion, and like, I don't know if you guys read Aaron, God, I can't remember his last name. Aaron from MailChimp, who's now moved on to Envision. Aaron Walters. He wrote a book on emotional design. And like, I think that's what we did when we go like look at something on Dribbble, because what's missing is those like endorphins that kick in. Cause like, in your work, you might be doing things that like made somebody's job really, really easy. And like, if they didn't hit any walls, they didn't hit any frustration, but you're, like you said, you're not getting a spinning wheel of fire, but you see that on a Dribbble, and then you get some endorphins that kick in from that. And you're like, oh, that's exciting. That makes me happy and excited. I want to do that.
Yeah, and you could have something to say, hey, look at this.
Right, yeah. And so like the lack of that can cause that little bit of a dip, even though what you're doing is probably allowing people to do their job in a very, very straightforward manner.
Yeah, very true. And it's designing emotion is what and I think it's it's part of is it Listapart, or is it the other series company? Yeah. Oh, go away, Amazon.
A book apart.
It's a book apart.
I remember.
Actually, it's purple.
Oh, shit.
Purple.
Yeah, what was the brown one?
Sorry. But let's see. What's some other things we could talk about? Either one of you have personal experiences where you just really, I know it's kind of personal, so I don't want to share it, but where you yourself have felt kind of like you.
Sure, I can share. Yeah, I've often felt depressed because I don't have the time to be able to research the things I want to do. I really enjoy wearing many hats, and I really enjoy doing a lot of strategy, design, and development, and it's hard to find the time to be able to do all those things. Or Brian, like we were talking about the other day at work, Brian and I work together for those listening. Not that you couldn't see that, but I don't know what that means. But like we were talking about this tutorial or sessions that you and somebody that you work with are doing.
Yeah.
And you know, I'd really love to do more of that kind of thing, but it's really hard to find the time. And I think, you know, we could have obviously a bigger discussion about, you know, when people are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and so on. Where do you find the time? You know, I have a 3-year-old, and it's very challenging to find the time. I work full time. You know, there's a lot of things that stack onto that.
Yeah. One thing that I thought about when you mentioned that when we talked, I think I may have mentioned to you when we're in the moment, but I'm not 100% sure. But
right.
I cannot remember the term of it. Marlowe's laws. What is it called? My brain is freezing.
What are you trying to describe?
Self-actualization, ego. What's it called?
Id, ego, super ego.
But the pyramid is called
Maslow.
Oh yeah,
Maslow. Yes, thank you. Hierarchy of needs. Right. Yeah.
Hierarchy of needs.
But once again, side projects, and with that, I mean, this kind of loops in with what you were talking about, and how when we do these side projects, we're producing something. It's feeding our egos, feeding our self-actualization, because we're achieving this for ourselves, and not being able to do that a lot. Or even people that do that, and that's what they're constantly doing. They're very focused on that, but they may be doing that for one aspect of themselves, and they're not doing anything to really grow themselves. They're doing it to show off to others, essentially, or like show, hey, I learned this and I can do this, but they're not satisfying their actual needs within themselves. And I think that's a huge problem in the industry, because we're all expected to have those side projects. Like I have a whole list. Like I have a huge list of things. I want to do all these. I want to make these things. And then I look at them, and a lot of times I'm like, well, you know what I'd rather do? I'd rather, walk my dog, or I'd rather spend time with my loved ones, or, do things that enrich my life in different ways. But at the same time, it's this balance of things. And I think a lot of people don't, a lot of designers especially, and even developers, I would say to an extent, don't balance that. And because of that, I think that affects them emotionally, and leads to things like depression, because of the fact that they're not really satisfying that hierarchy. Okay, I babbled on. Go ahead. Dan raised this hand.
I have a direct question towards that. So I'm curious, because like you're describing like that you also have a list of side projects, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're also talking on a podcast that you're
part of. Yeah, that's a side project. Yeah.
Where do you factor that into you at this point, because you've been doing it? You guys have been doing this, and it's an established thing. Do you now consider this part of your day-to-day, and the side project to be an additional thing, or is this a side project?
Can I go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like it is almost a day to day. I think about it like all the time. I frequently will jump into docs and make a little quick 1 sentence note on something. And we're all the Frederick and Janelle and I are all in the same SMS thread on our phones. So we're constantly talking and sending funny things to each other, and little interesting things. So I mean, I don't really consider it necessarily a side project. I mean, I consider Frederick and Janelle like family, really. Frederick?
I would also say the exact same thing. Yeah, that touched my heart a little bit. Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
Yeah, this is definitely one of my passions, and one of the things that drives me. I really am on a quest for knowledge and learning, and I find people to be the most interesting books that I could read. And I have a unquenchable thirst for getting to know people and what drives them and makes them tick.
Awesome. So yeah, I would say that all of that stuff comes off like very, very much so in like the way that you run the show, the enthusiasm, the excitement that you have. So I just wanted to, I was mainly asking the question just for both of you to remember, like you're also doing really, really cool stuff for the community on top of your jobs right now. So like this is an awesome thing. So.
Oh, thanks, Danny. Dan, lighten it up.
But so before we're going to eventually have to phase into our next part of the show, but
rapid fire.
But before we do that, I kind of like any last thoughts or regarding this topic and what can people do? And what I'm going to say is a really great episode. I know we just had it. Quan Lu, she talked so much about her notes in her journal, and she had this really great thing about jealousy. Where jealousy is a friend, and use it as a guide. And I think you should do the same thing with every. I mean, I consider jealousy an emotion. I guess it is an emotion, but
it is an emotion.
Yeah, and the same thing I think you should do with your depression. If you think of depression as a friend, like why are you depressed? What depresses you? Look at it. Write about it. Think about what you can do
to alleviate it.
Change your life to alleviate it. And I think that's a really great way to think. And again, we'll have a link to that show, which I've been telling everyone about that show because it was one of my favorite we've done. She was an amazing person, amazing guest.
Yeah, it was such a great point of like where she was saying like jealousy you should look at jealousy as a friend, because jealousy, all your other emotions sometimes could be fuzzy and hard to decipher, but jealousy is a clear indicator of what you want and who you want to be.
Yeah, and a little snippet of what she directed. She said she wrote down her friends that she was jealous of, or people she was jealous of, and why. And then she used that as a kind of a guide. But she went into more detail. Listen to the show. Frederick, you want last thoughts on the topic as far as guiding?
Yeah, I think exactly like what you were talking about, and I'll echo what I said again with Quan is that and you, of course, that depression and or jealousy, use it as something in a positive way. Try to not focus on so much the negative, but try to understand your emotions and try to understand why you're feeling certain things, and use that as a tool to not hold you down, but bring you up.
So I'll follow up. I would say like the number one thing for me is get yourself around people. And if that can be like people in the industry or not, but if most of your stuff is based around the industry, getting around people in the industry and talking about this stuff in whatever way you're comfortable, whether that's like having a beer with one person, that you have
back to the beer,
right? or like going to a meetup and then like just being around people, you'll find that like what I find very, very often is that meetups and social media version of like our community are night and day. If you go to a meetup or you're around a group of people or a conference or anything like that, the energy and like the discussion rate is like really, really high and really, really high quality. Whereas like in social media, it can often become very flippant and very like harsh. So just get around people and talk about this stuff.
Well said.
Well said.
Well, we're getting to the end of the show, and we have a few final questions for you. We're going to go into our rapid fire section where we just ask you some kind of questions that are either about things we missed. They could be about food, pizza. I always love to ask people about things like one of my favorite things is my Alton Brown meatloaf recipe.
Oh, that was my thing.
What? No, that's my thing. Anybody that watched the show clearly knows that's my thing.
It got mentioned. Ryan? I've been mentioning that in every single episode for a while on purpose.
We don't know what Ryan's talking about. So let's go with the rapid fire question.
I'm glad it made it into the show.
Boom. Go ahead, Brian, you first.
So which of Alton Brown's recipes is your favorite? Is it the meatloaf?
It's definitely the meatloaf recipe. Yes.
What was your favorite cartoon growing up as a kid?
G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe. All right. Pizza toppings of choice.
Don't judge the G.I. Joe.
I'm not.
How dare you?
Go Joe.
Pizza toppings of choice?
Yeah.
Pepperoni and banana pepper.
Oh, I like it.
When was the last time you cried at work and why?
Shit.
Yes, true.
There's no fucking cursing on the show. Come on.
Sorry.
Keep it fucking clean.
The last time I cried at work, man,
Gotcha moment. Gotcha.
yeah,
Gotcha.
sorry,
Gotcha.
I don't have one. I can tell you that there were some times I was really, really distraught at work.
Like,
That's
does
usually
Chuck Norris cry? I don't.
that's usually dealing with like a coworker or an employee that was crying.
Yeah.
Can be a really damaging thing. We did some layoffs and stuff like that. That was really, really rough in back in the poker world, not in the web world. But I would say it was if I did, it would have been that moment. We did some layoffs with some people I really, really liked, but got the axe.
Oh, I went to a dark place. Thanks, Frederick. Jeez. Favorite dessert? Bring it up.
Oh man, cheesecake.
What type though?
Just plain New York cream cheesecake.
Nice.
All right.
Why are you not directly associated with the conference anymore?
Oh, we stopped it because my wife took the job as a flight attendant, and she ran everything.
I remember there was supposed to be a story about this flight attendant thing.
Yes, yeah. So she like switched from event planning to taking the job as a flight attendant, and in your early phases of that, you have almost no control of your schedule. You're all over the place.
Okay. Makes
and
sense.
she really was the backbone of all the work. I was a face. I went up on stage. I talked to speakers, but like all the like logistics, the finding the Palladium, all the food, every plane tickets, everything was all run by her. And so without her, I was lost. So like we took a break, and then we found Gene, who runs Converge. Like Gene and all of the crew at the time, like they ran Converge, and they were willing to take it over.
Got it. That makes sense. Guilty pleasure.
Oh,
guilty. Gaming?
Guilty.
Yeah, gaming.
Okay,
Guilty,
I guess that's guilty.
I mean, it's just like beer.
Favorite beer?
Delirium Tremens. It's a Belgian.
Delirium. Yeah, Delirium's good. Yeah, I've had that before. Favorite T-shirt?
Oh, I have this. It's one from Sevenly. It's You May Think I'm a Dreamer. So it's like the beginning of like the Imagine thing.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And it's almost to the point where it's unwearable at this point. But
it's always rough when that happens.
Yeah.
What
T-shirt
podcast are you currently listening to?
Thunder Nerds.
Aside from
Thunder Nerds, not
Nerds,
on.
True Crime Garage.
So say that again.
True Crime Garage.
What's that about?
It is. It's a series of deep dives into true crime. So like a
Why garage?
person. Oh, because they do it. Two guys doing it from their garage in Ohio. So it's two guys that sit down originally it was like once every Tuesday, and they like shared like what they dive into like a true crime story, and share like all the details that they can and their opinions, and then like where the progress of it is, and then go from there.
That's cool.
That sounds pretty cool. All right. Brian, do you have any more?
Last thing you bought on Amazon, unless it's too private.
Icebreakers.
Icebreakers.
It's kind of a sad purchase, but I know I did it. I know it's my last one. It's the mint, yeah, and I did it via my Echo because it's my favorite thing.
Did you really?
That's awesome. You have those on your desk, don't you, Brian?
What? Oh, no, I don't. No. Duncan has gums, but yeah, I don't do the gums.
Shout out to Duncan.
I do have this on the desk though.
Oh, those are amazing.
Girl Scout Thin Mints, which by the way, I switched to Samoa's. It's my favorite now. I want to make that announcement. Samoa's is
Team
now
Samoa.
my favorite. Yeah, Team Samoa is now my favorite Girl Scout cookie over Thin Mints. I apologize.
Secret tip: keep them in the freezer. It makes them so good.
Oh, they're so good.
Yes, that's very true.
All right. Well, hey, Dan, we're getting to the very end, and I just want to ask you if you have any final words of wisdom that you would like to share with our audience. Anything you didn't get to say, anything that you want to behoove upon the world. The stage is yours, my friend.
All right. Let's get back to blogging. Learn something, share it on your blog, or write it anywhere and share it. Let's get back like away from like the hot takes and like go a little bit back to like diving into something, learning something, doing it, and then sharing it blogs. That's my thing.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Now, Medium or your own blog?
Oh,
God,
man.
Brian, that's a whole subject.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. Like, honestly, I don't care as long as it's findable. Like, as long as it's like that, we can read those.
All right, Dan, what's the best way people could get a hold of you?
Twitter, number one.
And your handle is?
Dan Denney, and it's spelled weird. It's DANDENNEY. Yeah.
I just show you weird, Dan.
But yeah, I keep notifications on, so it's like I have full-on conversations with people.
And you have a website, which is?
Oh yeah, that's DanDenney.com. It's a little outdated. I have this long-running PR because you can't just change the title. You have to also change all of your CSS in order to ship a update. But
well, Dan, it was really great having you on the show, and we're super excited for the Front End Design Conference. And are you going to be there?
I am. Yeah, absolutely. We're glorified attendees at this point. I'm actually going to be doing a little talk that'll kind of do the history of the conference.
That's amazing. Maybe we could have you on again too, since we're going to be there as well. Brian, myself, and Janelle. Which Janelle, we miss you on the show today.
Yes, we do.
She has so much energy. I love
Janelle.
Yes.
Yeah, and so we're all going to be there at the conference, and hopefully we could get to talk to you too a little bit and have you on for a 20-minute spot and get the dive into the event and how the day's going.
Yeah, and for anybody considering tweeting, definitely do it. The conference is really a lot of fun. I'm not just saying that because I was involved in it, but there's a lot of really great people that come. St. Pete is amazing. Food and drinks are amazing. There's
the lineup,
street art,
is amazing this year.
Amazing. Everything is going to be really fantastic.
You know what I wanted to ask Brian, actually? Brian, how would I be able to get a ticket if I didn't have the money for it?
Well, actually, funny you ask. You could just tweet at Thunder Nerds, and we're actually giving away a ticket.
We're giving away a ticket?
Yeah, for free, and it'll be announced April 8th. We're going to do a randomizer live. Yeah. So retweet us and say you want the ticket, and be like, "Give it to me," and we might just do it.
That's pretty nice. Pretty nice of us. Pretty nice. Well, hey, Dan, thank you so much for being on the show. We, again, super appreciate you coming on very last minute and sharing with us. This has been amazing. Really, really appreciate it, sir. It's great to have an authentic conversation with somebody that enjoys the industry and is passionate about what they do.
Yeah, and thank you for starting Front End Conf. Florida definitely needs more events like this, and I feel like it's slowly growing. We got WordCamp Miami.
Been to everyone.
We got the Dev Fest, which we are actually live podcast that one as well. And, there's a bunch more coming to Florida. Seems like it's starting to really grow. And I feel like in a way, Front End Design Conf was a catalyst for that.
Thank you very much. And I really, really, truly thank you for doing this podcast and for especially focusing on round conferences, because I can tell you anybody getting started or trying to promote, you have no idea how much this kind of thing helps, like someone trying to run a conference and stuff like that. So anytime that you're doing that, you're really, really helping out.
Well, there's just a infinite amount of value that comes from going to these conferences. It's not just about watching a tutorial on YouTube. It's about attending, getting to know people, and having those, networking and having those authentic interactions.
Which we'll have plenty of in next month.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dan. We really appreciate it, sir.
All right. Thank you.